Throughout history, colors have spoken a language of their own, shaping beliefs, traditions, and even power structures in ways we're only beginning to uncover. For instance, did you know that the vibrant blues and reds found on ancient artifacts weren't just decorative, but held deep spiritual and cultural significance? These colors could represent divine connections, signal authority, or even serve as protective talismans. But here's the fascinating part: many of these meanings remain shrouded in mystery, leaving us to wonder, how did ancient civilizations assign such profound symbolism to colors, and what secrets might we still be missing? In this video, we're diving into the hidden layers of color symbolism, exploring how societies like the Egyptians, Mayans, and Chinese used hues not just to beautify their world, but to reflect their deepest values, beliefs, and mysteries. Stay with us as we unravel how a seemingly simple choice of color could communicate power, spirituality, and even the divine. The story of ancient colors is far richer than meets the eye. In ancient Egypt, the color red held a fascinating and complex role, embodying a duality that reflected the Egyptians' intricate understanding of life and the cosmos. Red was not simply a hue found in nature, it was a symbolic force woven deeply into their spiritual and everyday lives. On one hand, red was the color of vitality, energy, and life itself. It symbolized the life-giving power of blood, the fiery energy of the sun, and the strength needed to thrive in an often harsh environment. But on the other hand, red also carried a darker meaning: chaos, destruction, and even malevolence. This dual nature of red is what made it so sacred and powerful in Egyptian culture. One of the most prominent uses of red was in its association with the god Set, a deity linked to chaos and disorder. Set, known for his tumultuous battles with Horus for control of the throne, was often depicted with red skin to signify his wild, untamed nature and his role as the bringer of storms and unrest. Yet the same color was also linked to Osiris, the god of death and rebirth, whose mythology centers on the cycle of life and the eternal balance between creation and destruction. This duality shows how the Egyptians viewed red as a force that could either harm or protect, depending on how it was used or invoked. Red ochre, a naturally occurring pigment, played a vital role in rituals, particularly those tied to death and protection. During burial ceremonies, red ochre was often used to paint the bodies of the deceased or adorn burial objects. Why? Because red was believed to protect the dead on their journey to the afterlife, warding off harmful spirits and ensuring safe passage into the realm of Osiris. This practice underscores red's protective qualities, even while acknowledging its connection to danger and violence. To further complicate its meaning, red was also tied to the concept of vitality in daily life. The Egyptians associated it with power, strength, and vigor, qualities they sought to channel in both the physical and spiritual realms. Warriors, for example, would sometimes wear amulets or adornments featuring red to draw upon its energizing and protective properties in battle. In a way, red became a color of empowerment, serving as a reminder of the thin line between life's vibrant energy and the chaos that could disrupt it. This dual symbolism of red reveals the Egyptians' broader worldview, one that embraced balance and harmony by recognizing the interdependence of opposites. Life and death, creation and destruction, order and chaos. Red unified these dichotomies into a single, sacred force that shaped their spiritual practices and artistic expressions. But red wasn't the only color with profound meaning in ancient Egypt. Another hue, equally significant, was woven into their beliefs and rituals as a symbol of eternity and the divine. Let's turn now to this remarkable color and uncover the next layer of their symbolic palette. In Mesopotamian culture, blue was far more than just a color, it was a bridge to the divine. Often seen as a symbol of the heavens and the sacred life-giving waters, blue carried profound spiritual and cosmic significance. This connection was deeply rooted in the natural world, where the endless expanse of the sky and the vital flow of rivers like the Tigris and Euphrates shaped the Mesopotamians' understanding of existence. For them, blue represented the essence of life and the realm of the gods, a connection that influenced their art, religion, and royal traditions in remarkable ways. One of the most striking examples of this reverence for blue lies in their use of lapis lazuli, a stunningly vibrant blue stone that was among the most prized materials in the ancient world. Found in far-off regions such as Afghanistan, lapis lazuli was so rare and valuable that it was reserved almost exclusively for the elite and for sacred purposes. It was believed to carry divine energy and was often incorporated into religious artifacts such as amulets, statues of gods, and ceremonial objects used in temple rituals. The richness of its color, speckled with gold-like flecks, was thought to reflect the starry night sky, a direct link to the celestial realm and the gods who presided over it. Take, for instance, the Ishtar Gate in Babylon, a monumental structure adorned with deep blue glazed bricks. This gateway, dedicated to the goddess Ishtar, was not just an architectural marvel but a symbolic representation of the heavens. The intense blue bricks, accented with golden reliefs of lions, dragons, and bulls, created a powerful visual that evoked the divine presence and the protection of the gods. Walking through the gate was thought to be an almost otherworldly experience, transporting visitors into a sacred space under the watchful eyes of the deities. Blue also found prominence in Mesopotamian depictions of gods and royalty, further emphasizing its association with power and the divine. Statues of deities were often inlaid with lapis lazuli, especially in their eyes, to symbolize clarity, wisdom, and a direct connection to the heavens. Similarly, kings and queens adorned themselves with jewelry featuring this precious stone, not only as a display of wealth and status, but also as a way to link themselves to the gods. By wearing blue, they aligned themselves with divine authority, reinforcing the idea that their rule was ordained by higher powers. The themes of water and life were equally tied to the color blue in Mesopotamian thought. As a civilization that thrived in the fertile lands between two great rivers, the Mesopotamians understood water as a sacred and life-sustaining force. Blue imagery in their murals and carvings often depicted flowing water or celestial themes, reinforcing the interconnectedness of earthly and divine realms. This symbolism was particularly potent in their religious structures, where intricate blue tiles or inlays would be used to create a sense of eternal connection between the worshippers, the gods, and the natural world. Through their reverence for blue, the Mesopotamians created a visual and symbolic language that linked the human and divine spheres in profound ways. Whether through their artistic masterpieces, their use of lapis lazuli, or the architectural splendor of structures like the Ishtar Gate, blue served as a constant reminder of their relationship with the gods and the forces of nature that governed their lives. But while Mesopotamians saw blue as a conduit to the heavens, other ancient cultures assigned an entirely different set of meanings to their colors. In the next segment, we'll turn our attention to another civilization and explore how their unique understanding of color added yet another layer to the mysteries of the ancient world. In ancient Greece, gold wasn't merely a material of wealth. It was a luminous symbol of immortality, divine favor, and the eternal realm of the gods. To the Greeks, golden tones and the radiant hues of yellow held a spiritual significance that went far beyond their physical beauty. They represented the divine essence of the immortals, the undying nature of the soul, and the brilliance of the celestial world. Whether through gilded statues, dazzling storytelling, or intricate works of art, the Greeks used the golden glow to connect the mortal and the divine in ways that still captivate the imagination. One of the most iconic examples of this symbolism can be found in the grand statues of their gods. The statue of Athena Parthenos, created by the renowned sculptor Phidias for the Parthenon in Athens, was a breathtaking representation of this idea. Draped in gold and ivory, Athena's resplendent form didn't just showcase the technical and artistic skill of the Greeks, but also served as a physical manifestation of her divine power. The shimmering gold adorning her armor and skin was a constant reminder to worshippers that she belonged to a timeless celestial plane, a goddess untouched by mortality and decay. Similarly, depictions of Apollo, the god of light and prophecy, often featured golden elements representing his connection to the sun and the pure, unending light of truth and knowledge. These golden hues weren't limited to statues. The symbolism extended into Greek mythology itself, where gold appeared as a recurring motif in tales of divine intervention and the pursuit of immortality. Take the story of the Golden Fleece, for instance, a legendary artifact sought by Jason and the Argonauts. This fleece, described as shimmering with an otherworldly glow, symbolized not only kingship and divine favor, but also the allure of something eternal and untouchable by human hands. The quest for the Golden Fleece was much more than an adventure. It was a journey to claim a fragment of the divine, a piece of immortality wrapped in radiant gold. Even in their poetic descriptions of the gods, golden imagery was ever present. Homer frequently referred to the gods and their possessions as golden, to emphasize their radiant, unchanging perfection. The golden chariot of Helios, the sun god, coursing across the sky each day, was a vivid representation of the harmony and power governing both the heavens and the earth. The association of gold with the divine seemed almost inevitable. Its untarnished luster and enduring nature mirrored the eternal qualities of the gods themselves. Gold and yellow tones also infused Greek art and everyday life with reflections of this divine symbolism. In frescoes, pottery, and jewelry, shades of gold and yellow often highlighted figures of great importance or divine origin. These colors weren't merely decorative, they signified the presence of something beyond the ordinary. To wear gold, to see it gleaming in a temple, or to hear it described in a myth was to brush against the eternal, to glimpse the divine light of the gods. This profound connection between gold and immortality wasn't unique to Greece, but the Greeks wove it into their cultural fabric with unparalleled elegance. It leaves us wondering, what about other bright colors? Did the fiery red of the setting sun or the deep blue of the Aegean hold equally powerful meanings for the Greeks? The story of their color palette, much like their mythology, is layered and fascinating, hinting at a complex interplay between the natural world and the spiritual. As we explore further, we'll uncover how other cultures, too, used vivid colors to encode their beliefs, shaping their understanding of life, death, and the divine. The journey through the mysteries of ancient color symbolism is far from over. In ancient China, the color green carried profound significance, symbolizing renewal, growth, and the cycles of life. It was a color deeply tied to nature and the idea of balance, seamlessly weaving its way into the cultural, spiritual, and artistic expressions of the time. For the Chinese, green was more than just a shade seen in the lush landscape. It represented life's continuous resurgence, harmony, and a connection to the natural world. This symbolism, rooted in the rhythms of nature, was reflected in their most sacred practices, their spiritual philosophies, and even the treasures they left behind. One of the most powerful embodiments of green's significance was jade, a material cherished by the Chinese for thousands of years. Green jade, in particular, was far more than a precious stone. It was regarded as a spiritual conduit and a symbol of purity, balance, and protection. Carved into intricate designs, jade was used in a variety of sacred objects, from ceremonial ornaments to burial artifacts. It was believed that jade, with its cool green hue and enduring strength, could bridge the earthly and spiritual realms, protecting the living and guiding the dead. In burial practices, jade discs known as bai were often placed in tombs as part of elaborate funerary rites. These objects, etched with symbols of heaven and earth, were thought to ensure the soul's safe journey into the afterlife, reflecting green's role as a color of eternal renewal and transformation. Beyond its physical use, green also resonated on a philosophical level, particularly in the teachings of Taoism. Central to Taoist thought is the concept of living in harmony with nature, following its rhythms and respecting its cycles, a worldview represented perfectly by the verdant tones of green. Green symbolized life's continuous flow, the balance of yin and yang, and the interconnectedness of all living things. The Taoist reverence for nature can be seen in their art and poetry, where green landscapes are often depicted as places of peace, reflection, and spiritual awakening. Mountains, rivers, and trees wrapped in shades of green were celebrated not just for their beauty, but for their ability to teach humans how to align with the natural order. Green's association with renewal and fertility also made it an important element in rituals and ceremonies. Spring festivals, for instance, embraced green as a symbol of the earth's awakening after winter, celebrating the return of life and abundance. In traditional Chinese thought, the season of spring itself was linked to the color green, the element wood, and the concept of growth and rejuvenation. This cyclical perspective underscored the belief that life was constantly being renewed, making green a reminder of hope, regeneration, and the promise of new beginnings. Even in burial rites, green played a pivotal role in reflecting this duality of life and death. Jade burial suits, garments made entirely of small jade plaques stitched together with threads of gold or silver, were used to encase the bodies of the elite. These suits weren't merely displays of wealth, they symbolized the belief in eternal life and spiritual purification. The green jade encasing the body was thought to preserve it, ensuring continuity between the physical and spiritual worlds. In this way, green was both a color of life and a protector in death, embodying the cycles of existence. The importance of green in ancient Chinese culture reveals the depth of their connection to nature, spirituality, and balance. It wasn't just a color, it was a philosophy, a belief system, and a cultural cornerstone. But while green represented life and harmony, other colors in the Chinese palette carried equally potent meanings, often contrasting or complementing green in fascinating ways. Next, we'll explore these contrasting hues and how they added layers of meaning to the intricate tapestry of Chinese color symbolism. In ancient Japan, the color white held a profound duality, embodying both the pristine essence of purity and the somber reality of mourning. This fascinating contrast reflects the Japanese worldview, one deeply rooted in cycles of life and death, as well as the spiritual balance inherent in all things. To truly understand the role of white in ancient Japanese culture, we must explore its symbolic meanings in spiritual practices, life's transitions, and the unique reverence for nature that shaped these beliefs. In Shinto, Japan's indigenous spiritual tradition, white was regarded as a color of immense spiritual power. It symbolized cleanliness, purity, and a connection to the divine, aligning with the central Shinto concept of **Hari** or purification. This belief was closely tied to nature, which was seen as the dwelling place of the **Kami** divine spirits or deities. White robes, for example, were an essential part of sacred rituals performed by Shinto priests, emphasizing spiritual cleanliness and readiness to communicate with the gods. The pristine white garment signified a removal of earthly impurities, allowing individuals to enter a sacred state in which they could honor and connect with the natural world and its divine forces. But white's meaning extended far beyond the spiritual realm. It also played a key role in life's most solemn transitions, particularly in funeral rites. Unlike in many other cultures where mourning is associated with darker colors like black, ancient Japan often embraced white as the color of death. During funerals, mourners would wear white to honor the deceased, a practice rooted in the belief that death was not an end but a continuation of life's eternal cycle. This tradition reflects an acceptance of death as a natural part of existence, as integral as birth and renewal. By wearing white, mourners symbolically conveyed the concept of spiritual purification, offering their loved ones a clean and undefiled passage into the afterlife. This dual role of white, purity in life and reverence in death, was seamlessly woven into Japan's cultural fabric. It mirrored the nation's innate respect for balance and impermanence, concepts central to both Shinto and later Buddhist thought. The changing seasons, the blooming and falling of cherry blossoms, and the ebb and flow of natural cycles all reinforced the understanding that life and death are intrinsically linked. White became the perfect color to express this duality, signifying that even in the face of loss, there is beauty and continuity in the grander design of life. Even in traditional wedding ceremonies, white found its place as a symbol of transformation. Brides would wear elaborate white shiramuku kimono, symbolizing purity and their willingness to begin a new phase of life with a clean slate. This tradition echoes the same themes of renewal and spiritual cleanliness found in Shinto rituals, tying life's joyous moments to the same reverence for purity that permeates Japan's cultural philosophy. Through this duality, white in ancient Japan served as a striking reflection of the culture's layered understanding of existence. Its presence in both sacred ceremonies and moments of mourning underscores the belief in life's interconnectedness, where purity and renewal coexist with impermanence and reverence for life's inevitable transitions. While white in Japan carried these profound meanings, other cultures interpreted the concept of purity and transformation through different colors, adding their own unique layers to the story of color symbolism. Let's now explore another culture's take on the symbolism of purity, where a vastly different hue takes center stage. In many ancient African civilizations, the color black was imbued with profound meaning, representing protection, power, and the deep mysteries of life and the spiritual realm. Far from being a mere absence of color, black was perceived as a forceful presence, one that carried strength, maturity, and an intimate connection to the unknown. Its associations were deeply rooted in the rhythms of life, nature, and spirituality, making it a cornerstone of cultural and ceremonial practices across the continent. In African tribal traditions, black was often viewed as a color of empowerment and resilience. Its connection to the earth itself, rich and fertile, tied it to the regenerative forces of life. This symbolism was especially prominent in agricultural societies, where black soil was revered as the source of life and sustenance, its richness viewed as a metaphor for strength and vitality. It wasn't just a color, but a reflection of the depth and resilience found in nature, as well as in the human spirit. One striking example of black's powerful symbolism is its use in tribal masks and ceremonial art. Masks adorned with black pigments were often crafted to channel strength, embody ancestral spirits, or invite protection during rituals. In many tribes, such as the Dogon of Mali or the Yoruba of Nigeria, black masks represented the wisdom and maturity of elders or the authority of deities. These masks were believed to transcend the physical world, acting as conduits between humans and the spiritual realm. The choice of black was deliberate. It was the color of the unknown, representing the vast, unseen forces that guide life and the universe. During ceremonies, these masks helped establish a sacred connection, invoking protection and power while commanding reverence. The use of black in textiles and fabrics also carried significant meaning. Across regions, textiles dyed with rich black hues were often reserved for special occasions, such as rites of passage, funerals, or community gatherings. The color symbolized the transition into maturity, marking moments of personal or spiritual growth. For example, in Ghana, the Ashanti people utilized black in their iconic kente cloths to signify intense spiritual energy, rebirth, and the endurance of the human spirit. By wearing these fabrics, individuals could embody the protective and empowering qualities that black represented. In ceremonies, black frequently served as a protective force. In some African spiritual practices, black paint or beads were worn to ward off negative energies or harmful spirits, acting as a shield for the individual. This ties into the belief that black, as a color of mystery and depth, had the power to absorb negativity and provide safety. Similarly, in healing rituals, black objects or adornments were used by shamans or spiritual leaders to harness the unseen energy needed to restore balance and health. What makes black's role in African culture particularly fascinating is how its meaning contrasts with interpretations in other parts of the world. While cultures like ancient Japan associated white with purification and spiritual readiness in African traditions, it was black that offered protection and strength. This difference highlights the deeply contextual nature of color symbolism, how it adapts to reflect the values, environments, and experiences of each society. Ultimately, in African traditions, black was far from a symbol of negativity or fear, as it is sometimes perceived in Western cultures. Instead, it was a color of rootedness, wisdom, and connection to forces larger than oneself. It was both a shield and a source of power, reminding people of the unseen energies that shape life. As we continue this exploration of ancient color symbolism, let's reflect on how different cultures have assigned meanings to colors based on their unique worldviews. How might a culture's environment, spirituality, or way of life influence their interpretation of something as universal as color? These questions reveal just how much we can learn from the ways ancient societies understood and used the hues around them. In the ancient civilizations of the Maya and the Aztecs, the color yellow wasn't just a vibrant hue, it was a lifeline, a sacred thread woven into every aspect of existence. Yellow symbolized the sun, a source of warmth, energy, and light. But even more importantly, it represented maize, the golden crop that sustained life itself. To these cultures, the sun and maize were not separate entities but interconnected forces, each critical to survival and deeply embedded in their spiritual beliefs. Yellow became more than just a color. It was a reminder of life's dependence on the earth and the heavens, and this reverence permeated everything from their rituals to their art. For the Maya and the Aztecs, the sun was a central figure in both mythology and daily life. In Aztec culture, the sun god Huitzilopochtli was one of the most important deities, responsible for keeping the world alive by fighting off the forces of darkness. To honor him, yellow pigments were frequently used in rituals and offerings, symbolizing the radiant energy of the sun. Similarly, in Mayan traditions, the sun was associated with life cycles, renewal, and power. Yellow often adorned the ceremonial artifacts and murals dedicated to the gods, visually reinforcing their connection to the life-giving celestial body. Equally significant to the Mayans and Aztecs was maize, a crop seen as a divine gift and a cornerstone of existence. Maize wasn't just food, it was believed to form the very essence of humanity. According to Mayan creation myths, humans were crafted from maize dough, making the crop a sacred embodiment of life itself. Naturally, yellow, the color of ripe maize, became a visual shorthand for fertility, sustenance, and abundance. In artistic depictions, maize was often painted or sculpted in golden tones, celebrating its central role in their lives and reinforcing its importance in their spiritual worldview. The vibrancy of yellow also radiated through their artistic expressions. In Mayan and Aztec murals, pottery, and ceremonial objects, the golden hue was often used to depict scenes of divine importance or agricultural abundance. Murals uncovered at sites like Bonampak reveal how yellow, alongside other vivid colors, was used to tell stories of ritual and cosmic balance. These vivid hues weren't chosen at random. They carried layers of meaning, with yellow anchoring themes of life and prosperity. Similarly, on pottery and ceremonial vessels, yellow paints highlighted symbols of the sun, maize, and the gods, offering a visual representation of the interdependence between the earth, the heavens, and humanity. The creation of these pigments was an intricate process, one that blended artistry with a deep understanding of the natural world. The Mayans and Aztecs sourced their yellow pigments from materials readily available in their environment, such as clay, plant resins, and mineral deposits. One notable source was a natural clay pigment called ochre, which provided a warm, earthy yellow hue. Plants like marigolds were also used, not only for their striking color but for their spiritual connotations in rituals. This harmony between their environment and their artistry highlights the ingenuity of these civilizations. They didn't just extract resources from their surroundings. They treated the process as a sacred act, one that honored the very materials that sustained them. The connection between yellow, survival, and belief raises an interesting question. How much of this reverence for color was driven by practical necessity, and how much by spiritual symbolism? For the Mayans and Aztecs, it seems there was no dividing line. The sun and maize were both essential for physical survival, but they were also viewed as gifts from the gods deserving of veneration. The color yellow became the link between the human and the divine, a striking reminder that everything from the smallest grain of maize to the blazing sun overhead was part of a greater cosmic order. As we reflect on how these ancient peoples viewed yellow, it's impossible not to marvel at the depth of meaning they infused into their artistic and spiritual practices. For the Mayans and Aztecs, yellow wasn't just a color, it was a sacred force, a bright and shining symbol of life's most essential truths. And so, their use of yellow leaves us with a timeless question. How do the colors we surround ourselves with reflect what we value most deeply? In ancient Rome, the color purple was not just a hue, it was a statement of unparalleled wealth, social standing, and political power. Known as Tyrian purple, this rich, deep shade was so rare and costly to produce that it became synonymous with the highest echelons of Roman society. Reserved almost exclusively for emperors, high-ranking officials, and the elite, purple came to symbolize authority, divine favor, and the exclusivity of power itself. Its story, however, begins far from the grandeur of Rome, with tiny sea creatures and a labor-intensive process that made this color one of the most coveted commodities of the ancient world. The secret of Tyrian purple lay in an unlikely source, a small species of sea snail called *murex*, found along the coasts of the eastern Mediterranean. These snails produced a tiny amount of a purple pigment within their glands. Extracting this dye was a painstaking and time-consuming process. Thousands of snails were needed to produce even a single ounce of dye, and the process required careful handling and expertise. The snails were harvested, the glands removed, and then they were fermented and boiled to release the precious pigment. This could take days or even weeks, depending on the desired richness of the color. The result was a hue so vibrant and long-lasting that it almost seemed otherworldly, a deep, lustrous purple that resisted fading over time. Because of the immense effort and resources required to produce Tyrian purple, it became prohibitively expensive, affordable only to the wealthiest and most powerful individuals. In Rome, this exclusivity gave the dye its symbolic weight. The wearing of purple clothing, particularly the toga *picta* or robes with purple borders, was strictly regulated by sumptuary laws. These laws dictated who could wear purple based on rank, ensuring that the color remained a marker of imperial and senatorial privilege. For example, the emperor's robes were often dyed entirely in Tyrian purple, a visual declaration of his supreme authority. For senators and other elites, only specific garments or trims in purple were permitted, reinforcing the rigid hierarchy of Roman society. This association between purple and power was further amplified by its connection to divinity. The Romans, like many ancient cultures, believed that rulers were appointed or favored by the gods. Purple's deep, almost ethereal hue, coupled with its rarity, gave it an aura of the divine. To drape oneself in Tyrian purple was to project wealth, political supremacy, and even a sense of being chosen by the gods. It wasn't just clothing, it was a declaration of status and authority visible to all. Tyrian purple's prestige didn't fade with the fall of Rome. Its symbolic weight carried over into Byzantine times and beyond. Byzantine emperors continued to wear purple as a mark of their divine and political power, and the term "born in the purple" emerged to describe individuals born into imperial families. Even today, the color retains echoes of its ancient exclusivity. Purple is often associated with royalty and high status, as seen in ceremonial regalia, academic robes, and even branding that aims to convey luxury and sophistication. But perhaps what's most fascinating is how this specific shade of purple, extracted from sea snails through an arduous and complex process, shaped the meanings we attach to the color itself. It's a striking example of how the scarcity and effort associated with a material can transform it into a symbol far greater than its physical properties. The story of Tyrian purple also invites us to consider how other ancient cultures found unique and sometimes unexpected uses for colors. While purple became a symbol of power in Rome, civilizations across the globe attached equally profound meanings to their own distinctive palettes. Let's turn now to explore some of these surprising and unconventional uses of color and how they shaped entirely different cultural narratives. Across indigenous cultures around the world, the color red holds an unmistakable presence, rich in symbolism and layered with meaning. More than just a pigment, red is deeply tied to life itself, representing blood, the earth, and ancestral connections. Its vibrancy speaks to energy, power, and spirituality, giving it a uniquely versatile role in rituals, warfare, and cultural expression. What makes red so fascinating is its ability to carry multiple, sometimes contrasting meanings, all tied together by an understanding of its vitality and its ties to the cycles of life and death. Among many Native American tribes, red is often seen as the color of life and the lifeblood that sustains it. Blood, after all, is the essence of survival, both literally and spiritually. For the Lakota Sioux, red was a sacred color used during ceremonies to honor ancestors and invoke their protection and guidance. Sacred objects such as prayer ties or ceremonial garments were often adorned with red to symbolize the connection to the spirits and the ongoing link between the living and the dead. In this way, red became a bridge between generations, anchoring the present to the ancient wisdom of those who came before. Red's association with the earth also plays a prominent role in indigenous cultures. Among the Navajo, red ochre, a mineral-rich pigment derived from the earth, was used in sand paintings and ceremonial art to symbolize the land's vitality and its nurturing connection to humanity. These sand paintings, created during healing rituals, were vibrant works of art meant to restore harmony and balance. The choice of red was no coincidence. It represented the life-giving energy of the earth itself, blending the physical and spiritual realms into one cohesive whole. Similarly, the Hopi people of the American Southwest used red pigments in their pottery and Kachina carvings to honor the life-sustaining forces of the desert landscape. In many indigenous cultures, red was also a color of protection, energy, and power, particularly in the context of war. Warriors from various tribes, such as the Plains tribes and the Iroquois Confederacy, often used red paint to decorate their faces and bodies before battle. Known as war paint, the use of red symbolized courage, strength, and the readiness to defend one's people. It wasn't purely decorative, it was deeply ritualistic. The act of painting oneself in red was often accompanied by prayers and ceremonies, invoking spiritual protection and channeling the warrior's resolve. Each mark or pattern carried specific meanings, transforming the individual into a vessel of collective strength and purpose. Beyond the battlefield, red war paint also represented an alignment with spiritual forces, ensuring a warrior's actions were guided by the ancestors and the natural order. This symbolism wasn't limited to North America. For the Quechua people of the Andes, red carried a similarly complex meaning. In ceremonies dedicated to Pachamama or Mother Earth, red was used in offerings of coca leaves, textiles, and clay vessels. These items, often streaked with red, reflected the life-giving essence of the mountains and valleys that sustain the Quechua people. In this context, red was a color of gratitude and reciprocity, honoring the symbiotic relationship between humanity and the earth. Red's spiritual significance also extended far beyond its earthly connections. Many indigenous cultures viewed red as a gateway to the divine. Among the Ojibwe, red was a powerful color in the sacred medicine wheel, representing the direction of the south, the summer season, and the element of fire. It symbolized growth, passion, and the spiritual energy that fuels creation and transformation. This spiritual dimension of red elevated its use in ceremonies and storytelling, tying it to concepts that transcended the material world. What stands out across all these examples is red's remarkable versatility. It is simultaneously earthly and spiritual, a color of life and a reminder of death, a symbol of protection in war and harmony in ritual. Its presence is a testament to how deeply connected indigenous cultures are to the cycles of life and the forces that shape the human experience. As we reflect on the cultural versatility of red, it opens the door to a larger question about the spiritual dimensions of color across ancient civilizations. Could it be that colors like red acted as universal symbols, bridging the earthly and the divine? This enduring connection between color and the spiritual realms is a thread that runs through many cultures, waiting to be unraveled further in our exploration. In ancient India, colors were far more than visual elements. They were deeply infused with spiritual and symbolic meanings, serving as powerful tools for storytelling, devotion, and the expression of cosmic principles. Among the vibrant spectrum, saffron and blue stand out as two of the most profound hues, each carrying layers of sacred significance and playing pivotal roles in ritual, art, and mythology. Let's start with saffron, a deep orange shade that has been revered in the Indian subcontinent for millennia. In Hinduism, saffron symbolizes purity, renunciation, and sacrifice. Its sacred status stems from its association with ascetics and saints, who often wear saffron robes as a sign of their detachment from worldly desires and their commitment to spiritual enlightenment. The color is also deeply tied to fire, an element that represents transformation and the burning of impurities in Vedic rituals. Fire is seen as a vehicle to connect with the divine, and saffron, with its fiery hue, embodies this spiritual energy. It's no coincidence, then, that saffron is a prominent color in sacred ceremonies, from the adornment of temples to the powders used in rites of worship. Saffron also carries a sense of unity, identity, and devotion in Indian culture. The flags atop Hindu temples are often saffron, symbolizing the eternal flame of Dharma or cosmic order. The sacredness of the color extends beyond the spiritual realm into the cultural and national identity, as saffron is one of the three colors on the Indian flag, representing courage and selflessness. Equally powerful is the color blue, which holds a unique place in Indian spirituality through its connection to Krishna, one of Hinduism's most beloved deities. Krishna, often depicted with bluish skin, embodies divine love, compassion, and the infinite nature of the cosmos. Blue, the color of the sky and the ocean, reflects Krishna's boundless and eternal essence, serving as a visual reminder of his divine nature. In Indian art and sculpture, Krishna is frequently shown playing his flute amidst lush greenery, his blue skin creating a striking contrast that symbolizes divine harmony amidst worldly chaos. Blue also appears in the stories of Rama, another revered incarnation of Vishnu, reinforcing its connection to divinity and righteousness. These depictions in mythology and art have helped cement blue as a color of cosmic balance, profound devotion, and spiritual truth. Both saffron and blue come alive during festivals, particularly Holi, the festival of colors. Holi is a celebration of the triumph of good over evil, marked by a joyous explosion of vibrant powders, including bright saffron and deep blue hues. These colors not only represent celebration but also the deeper themes of renewal, forgiveness, and unity. Saffron, with its ties to purity, blends with blue's divine essence as participants cover each other in colors, dissolving differences and celebrating the shared human spirit. The symbolism of Holi reminds us that colors in India are not just ornamental, they carry the stories of the cosmos, the gods, and human connection. Even Indian art and architecture reflect the spiritual power of these hues. The walls of ancient temples are often painted or adorned with pigments that include saffron and blue, carefully chosen to evoke specific emotions and devotion. A striking example of saffron's use can be found in the intricate carvings of the Sun Temple in Connaught, where the fiery tones evoke the energy and radiance of the sun god Surya. Meanwhile, blue's presence is unmistakable in depictions of Krishna in miniature paintings, where his divine persona is brought to life against vibrant, symbolic backdrops. These colors are also woven into Indian mythology, where their meanings deepen as they appear in epic tales like the Mahabharata and the Ramayana. In these stories, saffron often signifies sacrifice, as seen in the characters who give up their worldly desires for the greater good. Blue, on the other hand, highlights divine intervention and the limitless compassion of the gods as Krishna guides humanity with wisdom and love. The hidden spiritual meanings of saffron and blue illustrate how colors in ancient India were never just aesthetic. They were bridges between the earthly and the divine, tools to express the infinite, and symbols that guided people toward higher truths. As we move forward, let's explore how this intricate relationship with color extended into storytelling and mythology, painting a vivid picture of a culture where every hue had a purpose and a story to tell. In the heart of Australia, a palette of earthy tones, ochres, browns, whites, and reds, has told the stories of a people for tens of thousands of years. For Indigenous Australians, these colors were far more than natural pigments. They were sacred tools for preserving culture, marking territory, and maintaining a spiritual connection to the land and the ancestral realms of the Dreamtime. Every stroke of ochre on rock or bark was a deliberate act, carrying layers of meaning that spanned generations, linking the physical world with the spiritual. The use of ochre, in particular, holds a profound place in Aboriginal culture. Derived from naturally occurring minerals in the earth, ochre was meticulously gathered and prepared to create pigments in shades of yellow, brown, red, and even white. The act of collecting ochre was itself a sacred practice, often carried out in specific locations tied to ancestral stories or Dreamtime lore. For example, certain ochre pits were considered sacred and protected as they were thought to hold the essence of the land's spirit. The pigments made from these materials were not just used for artistic expression, but also in ceremonial body painting, rock art, and the decoration of sacred objects. Each color carried its own significance. Red ochre often symbolized blood and life, white represented spirit and sky, and yellow was associated with the sun and the sands of the earth. Aboriginal rock art, some of which dates back more than 40,000 years, provides a window into the profound relationship between these earthy tones and indigenous spirituality. These artworks, found in caves and on rock faces across the continent, served as maps, historical records, and sacred texts. The figures and patterns created with ochre pigments depict the journeys of ancestor spirits, the animals they encountered, and the landscapes they formed during the dream time, a foundational concept in Aboriginal belief systems. The dream time, or Tijukurpa asterisk, refers to the time of creation when ancestral beings shaped the land, its features, and the laws that govern all life. Through their art, Indigenous Australians preserved these stories, ensuring the continuity of knowledge and cultural identity. Even the locations of these artworks were significant. Sacred sites where Dreamtime events were believed to have occurred were adorned with these earthy hues, visually marking the land with spiritual meaning. These paintings weren't static. They were often refreshed or recreated by successive generations, reinforcing the connection between people, place, and story. For example, in Arnhem Land, Northern Australia, galleries of ancient rock art created with red and yellow ochres illustrate the enduring relationship between Aboriginal people and the land. These works act as timeless expressions of cultural identity and spiritual teachings. The earthy tones also served practical and symbolic purposes in ceremonies. During initiation rites, for instance, individuals were painted with ochre and other natural pigments, their decorated bodies symbolizing transformation and their connection to the ancestral spirits. The designs and patterns were specific to the individual's clan and the stories of their land, highlighting how the colors of the earth tied them to their community and heritage. Similarly, sand paintings created for rituals used these earthy pigments to bring ceremonial spaces to life, connecting participants with the spiritual energy of the ancestors. What makes this use of color so remarkable is its deep integration with the environment. The pigments themselves were drawn from the land, and in applying them, the Aboriginal people effectively returned the story to the landscape. This cyclical relationship between the earth, the art, and the spiritual world reveals a profound respect for nature as both a source of life and a sacred inheritance. As we reflect on the spiritual and cultural weight of these earthy tones in Aboriginal art, it's clear that their significance goes far beyond aesthetics. They are keys to understanding how Indigenous Australians viewed their place in the universe, a relationship defined by harmony, responsibility, and timeless connection. Interestingly, this reverence for natural pigments wasn't unique to Australia. In other parts of the world, societies also drew from the earth to create symbolic and spiritual works of art, embedding meaning into the very materials they used. Let's explore how another culture used the gifts of the earth to tell their own stories and preserve their heritage. In ancient civilizations, textiles and clothing were far more than mere necessities or displays of craftsmanship. They were vibrant canvases upon which entire societies communicated identity, status, and affiliation. The colors woven into these fabrics weren't chosen at random. They were carefully selected, dyed, and arranged to convey deep symbolic meaning. By examining the use of rich dyes such as indigo, madder, and cochineal, we can uncover how ancient peoples infused their garments with cultural narratives and personal significance, creating a visual language that still echoes in modern fashion today. For many ancient societies, the ability to wear certain colors was tightly controlled, reserved only for those of a specific rank or role. In imperial China, for instance, yellow was the color of the emperor, symbolizing his divine authority and the sustenance of the earth. Garments dyed in bright yellow were restricted to the imperial court, with strict penalties for those who violated this rule. Similarly, in ancient Rome, the rich purple of Tyrian dye was synonymous with power and privilege, as we previously explored. Senators and emperors donned garments with purple borders or entirely dyed togas, using the color to signify their elevated status within the societal hierarchy. These restrictions weren't just about exclusivity, they turned colors into powerful markers of identity and control, making clothing a visible affirmation of the wearer's place in society. The production of these colors often required extensive labor and rare resources, making certain hues more prestigious than others. Indigo, for example, was one of the most sought-after dyes in ancient India, Egypt, and later across Africa. Its deep blue hue symbolized not only wealth but also spiritual depth and the infinite nature of the cosmos. The dye was painstakingly extracted from the leaves of the indigo plant through a labor-intensive process involving fermentation and oxidation. This made garments dyed with indigo highly prized and often reserved for ceremonies or individuals of high standing. Similarly, madder, a root-based dye that produced shades ranging from soft pink to deep red, was widely used in textiles across Mesopotamia, Persia, and ancient Europe. Red was a color of boldness and vitality, often worn by leaders or warriors to communicate power and presence. In the Americas, cochineal, a brilliant red dye derived from insects harvested from cacti, became a cornerstone of textile traditions among the Aztecs and Mayans. Not only was it used to adorn the clothing of nobility and priests, but it also carried spiritual significance. Red garments were linked to the gods and rituals, symbolizing life force, sacrifice, and divine connection. After the Spanish conquest, cochineal became a highly sought-after export, influencing European textile traditions and cementing its legacy as one of the most valuable dyes in human history. But it wasn't just the colors themselves that carried meaning. The patterns and designs woven into the textiles added another layer of symbolism. In Peru, the intricate geometric patterns of Andean textiles documented lineage, community affiliations, and even territorial boundaries. For the Zapotec in Mexico, the motifs woven into their fabrics told stories of ancestors, deities, and natural elements, transforming every piece of clothing into a cultural artifact. These designs were more than decorative, they were a record of identity and belonging, passed down through generations. What's fascinating is how these ancient textile traditions have influenced modern fashion and self-expression. Today, we still use colors and patterns to communicate identity. Think of a business suit versus a vibrant festival outfit or team colors that unite sports fans worldwide. The labor-intensive processes of ancient dye-making have been replaced by modern techniques, yet many of the same symbolic associations remain. For example, red continues to evoke power and passion, while blue commonly represents trust and authority. So, what can we learn from the way ancient civilizations used color in their clothing? Perhaps it's a reminder that what we wear is never just a coincidence. From the crushed insects that produced cochineal to the deeply symbolic threads of Andean textiles, every dye and piece of fabric once told a story. And while the way we produce and wear clothing has evolved, the human desire to communicate through color, whether to signify status, express individuality, or connect with others, remains just as strong today. Could it be that in our modern wardrobes, we're still weaving the echoes of ancient traditions into the fabric of our lives? The process of creating colors in ancient times was nothing short of an alchemical marvel, a fusion of art, science, and sheer ingenuity. Before synthetic dyes and pigments, vibrant colors relied on the natural world, a resourcefulness that demanded not only skill but also a deep understanding of nature's hidden potential. Minerals, plants, insects, and even shells were transformed into the vivid shades that adorned ancient textiles, pottery, and artworks. But these hues weren't just about aesthetics. The methods of producing them were often so elaborate and mysterious that the act of creating color became deeply symbolic, bordering on the mystical. Let's uncover how ancient civilizations unlocked these hidden treasures and shaped their world with color. Take, for example, Tyrian purple, a dye so precious that it became synonymous with royalty and power. This deep, rich purple was derived from the Murex sea snail, a small mollusk found along the Mediterranean coast. To extract the dye, thousands of snails had to be harvested and their glands meticulously removed. These were then fermented and exposed to sunlight in a labor-intensive process that could take weeks. The result was a vibrant purple hue that didn't fade over time, making it highly prized. The rarity and effort involved made it prohibitively expensive, with only emperors or the elite able to afford garments dyed in this shade. The painstaking process of creating Tyrian purple was so revered that it was seen as almost magical, with the color itself becoming a symbol of divine authority and exclusivity. Similarly, the Egyptians were masters of creating one of the first synthetic pigments, Egyptian blue. Known as frit asterisk, this vibrant, glass-like pigment was made by grinding together sand, copper, and lime, which were then heated to extremely high temperatures. The result was a striking blue powder that was used to decorate everything from statues to tomb walls. Egyptian blue wasn't just a color, it symbolized the heavens and the afterlife, evoking immortality and divine order. The technology behind its creation was centuries ahead of its time, demonstrating not only skill but also a profound understanding of chemistry long before the field formally existed. This innovation in color making reflected the Egyptians' deep connection to their spiritual beliefs, where every shade held significance tied to their gods, their cosmology, and their pursuit of eternity. And then there's the story of Mayan red, a color so enduring that traces of it have survived on ancient artifacts for centuries. This bright red pigment, known as cinnabar red or Maya red was made by combining mineral clays with organic materials such as the roots of the achiote plant, which contains a natural red dye. The Mayans applied it to pottery, murals, and even the bodies of their dead, seeing red as a symbol of life, power, and sacrifice. Its vibrant hue was not only visually striking but also symbolically potent, representing the connection between the earthly and spiritual realms. The ability to create such a resilient and brilliant pigment speaks to the Mayans' ingenuity and their profound respect for color as a sacred medium. What's particularly fascinating is how these ancient methods of creating color often carried an air of mystery, transforming the process into something almost alchemical. The sheer effort and resources required, whether it was gathering thousands of snails, perfecting high-temperature kilns, or sourcing rare minerals, imbued the act of color making with a sense of wonder. It wasn't merely a craft, it was a bridge between the natural and the divine. Many believed that these colors held spiritual energy, connecting the material world with gods and cosmic forces. This idea was especially true in cultures where specific colors were reserved for sacred rituals or royal use, as if the colors themselves held power. The artistry and ingenuity behind these ancient creations remind us of the enormous value that civilizations placed on color. It wasn't something taken for granted. Every vivid hue told a story of labor, devotion, and an intimate relationship with the natural world. These colors weren't just adornments, they were embodiments of a culture's identity, beliefs, and aspirations. As we reflect on the laborious processes and the reverence for these pigments, it becomes clear that color was far more than a visual element. It was a profound expression of what it meant to be human. Ancient peoples didn't just create colors, they crafted meanings, setting the stage for how we continue to understand and value color in our world today. As we've journeyed through the vibrant worlds of ancient civilizations, one thing becomes abundantly clear: color was never merely decorative. It carried weight, meaning, and often a sense of the sacred. Yet, while every society infused unique cultural, spiritual, and practical interpretations into their palette, certain universal patterns emerge, proof that color resonates deeply across humanity, transcending time, geography, and belief systems. So, what do these shared and divergent themes reveal about our relationship with color and its role in shaping the human experience? Let's start with the universal themes. Across many ancient civilizations, red, perhaps the most dynamic of all colors, consistently symbolized life itself. It's no wonder. Red is the color of blood, the essence of vitality flowing within us all. In Egypt, it represented life and energy while doubling as a warning of chaos or danger. For the Mayans, red symbolized the life force, linking humanity to the gods through rituals and sacrifices. Similarly, in indigenous cultures, red was seen as a protective and powerful hue, tying individuals to the cycles of birth, death, and rebirth. This shared reverence for red across cultures suggests a primal connection, an intuitive understanding that red is inseparable from the human experience, a visual shorthand for our most fundamental truths. Other colors also reveal fascinating commonalities. Blue, for instance, often symbolized divinity or the infinite. To the Mesopotamians, blue pointed to the heavens and the sacred waters, emphasizing spiritual connection and the divine order of the cosmos. In ancient Egypt, blue stood for protection and the eternal nature of the gods, while in Hinduism, the blue skin of Krishna represented boundless compassion and cosmic wisdom. The likely reason for this recurring symbolic thread is that blue, the color of sky and sea, evokes a sense of vastness, mystery, and something greater than ourselves. Its very presence in nature speaks to a higher order, a reflection of the divine. But as universal as these themes may seem, they're accompanied by striking divergences, differences rooted in geography, access to resources, and distinct belief systems. For example, green in ancient China symbolized renewal, balance, and the connection to nature's cycles, while in ancient Greece, it wasn't particularly revered and was often overshadowed by the prominence of white, red, and gold. Meanwhile, purple, so deeply tied to royalty in Rome and Byzantium due to its rarity and cost, carried no such connotations in regions where the materials to create it, like Tyrian dye, were unavailable. Instead, those societies found their symbols of status and divinity in colors like saffron yellow, crafted from turmeric or other locally sourced materials. Geography and resources often dictated a civilization's relationship with color. Cultures surrounded by abundant plants or minerals that could produce vibrant pigments naturally leaned on those colors within their palettes. The Mayans, for instance, had access to cochineal and clay-rich pigments, making red and earthy tones central to their art and spirituality. Conversely, the scarcity of Tyrian purple made it a marker of exclusivity in the ruling classes of Rome and Greece. This interplay of environment and symbolism demonstrates how humanity's connection to color is as much ecological as it is cultural. Belief systems, too, left their mark. In Shinto, white symbolized purity and reverence, reflecting a religion deeply rooted in the idea of cleansing and spiritual preparation. Contrastingly, in ancient India, saffron orange spoke of transformation and sacrifice, encapsulating the fiery energy of spiritual growth. While some meanings overlap, yellow for life or blue for divinity, it's clear that each culture found unique ways to assign profound meaning to its palette, shaped by its specific worldview and environment. So, what does this say about human beings and our relationship with color? perhaps it reveals the universality of our need to make sense of the world around us. Despite our linguistic, cultural, and geographic differences, we've consistently used color as a tool for expressing what words cannot fully capture: a connection to the sacred, a marker of identity, and a mirror of our shared human experience. But it also speaks to our ingenuity, finding profound meaning within the limitations of our environment, transforming nature's hues into symbols of the divine, the mortal, and everything in between. And here's the thought-provoking question. If colors have had such universal appeal and meaning for humanity, yet remain so deeply tied to the specifics of culture and place, how much of our modern understanding of color is unconsciously shaped by these ancient traditions? Are we, in the colors we choose and the meanings we ascribe, still carrying forward the echoes of our ancestors' beliefs? The journey of color symbolism reminds us that, much like the hues themselves, our stories are layered, connected, and endlessly rich. Colors are far more than what meets the eye. They are stories, symbols, and connections that transcend time. As we've explored, ancient civilizations infused colors with profound meaning, using them to express their beliefs, convey power, and forge bonds between the earthly and the divine. From the radiant gold and divine blue of ancient Egypt to the life-giving reds of the Mayans and the regal purples of Rome, each hue carried a weight of cultural and spiritual significance. These weren't just colors, they were languages capable of communicating authority, devotion, protection, and even the mysteries of the cosmos. What's remarkable is how these ancient practices continue to echo in our lives today. Colors still shape how we understand and interact with the world, influencing art, design, fashion, and even traditions passed down through generations. Think about how red is still tied to passion and vitality, blue to trust and serenity, or gold to luxury and success. These associations aren't accidental, they're rooted in the ways our ancestors used colors to reflect their deepest values. The pigments of the past have left an indelible mark, continuing to inspire and shape the modern world in ways we may not always realize. Take art and design, for example. The enduring appeal of bold, vibrant palettes stems from the principles pioneer cultures developed thousands of years ago. The meticulous use of color to evoke emotion or tell a story in ancient frescoes and textiles mirrors how modern creators use it in paintings, advertisements, and digital media. Even ceremonial uses of color, like painting faces or dressing in specific hues for special occasions, find parallels in contemporary cultural practices across the globe. Whether choosing a wedding color scheme, decorating a home, or wearing team colors to a sports event, we're echoing the ancient belief that colors hold the power to unite and express identity. But perhaps the most timeless lesson we can take from the ancients is the understanding that colors are more than aesthetic. They are emotional, symbolic, and deeply personal. They have the power to evoke memories, communicate ideas, and spark reflections. So here's something to think about. How do the colors in your own life shape your emotions, decisions, or sense of identity? What stories do they tell, and what connections do they forge? Often, the way we respond to color is a blend of inherited meanings and personal experiences, showing just how deeply intertwined we are with this language of the past. As we wrap up, one unifying truth stands out: the power of color is enduring. It connects us across time and space, revealing how something as seemingly simple as a hue can carry complex, profound meanings. It's a reminder of how creativity, culture, and human expression are all woven together, creating a shared history as rich and vibrant as the colors themselves. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the mysteries of ancient color symbolism. If this exploration inspired you, we'd love to hear from you. Share your thoughts or experiences with color, whether it's a shade that holds special meaning or a cultural tradition tied to a specific hue, in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a like, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss another dive into the fascinating mysteries of our history. Together, let's continue exploring the incredible ways the past shapes our present and inspires our future. See you next time.